Hello, and welcome to the Crochet Basics video. If you are learning how to crochet for the first time, or if you just want to refresh, then you are in the right spot. I'm going to take you through on how to create a foundation chain, which is the start of any crochet project. Then I will take you through on how to create that first row from the chain using a single crochet stitch. And then I will take you through on how to fasten off and weave in your ends at the end of your project. So grab a crochet hook, a ball of yarn, and also you will need a tapestry needle for the weaving in of the ends. So grab everything you need, come on back, and we will get started. Okay, so let's start with the foundation chain. We are going to create a loop to put onto our hook. That's the first step. So take your yarn and cross over like so. Then grab your tail and bring it underneath that circle loop that you just created. So it should look like this. Then grab that middle piece of yarn that's laying across that circle and pull it up while you're holding the two tails at the bottom. And that's your starting loop. So rewind that and practice that as many times if needed. Then you're going to take your hook, put the loop on your hook, and pull it tight. And now you're ready to start making your chains. So let's create the first chain. We're going to take your yarn and you're going to yarn over onto your hook. Then you're going to pull that yarn through the loop, and that's your first chain. So let's do this many more times. You're going to yarn over onto your hook. Then with that yarn, you're going to pull it through the loop, and that's chain number 2. Yarn over, and with your hook, you're going to pull that through your loop like so. And there's 3 chains that you've created so far. Now patterns will have whatever chains, however many chains that are needed to create your project. So it could be 10, could be 50, could be 150. It all depends on what your pattern is asking for. But when it says to chain 38, this is what we're doing. We're chaining on our stitches. So yarn over, and with your hook, pull through that loop. Yarn over, pull through your loop, and practice this as many times as necessary until it feels comfortable. It takes time and it takes practice, without a doubt. Yarn over, pull through your loop, and you've got a nice row of foundation chain stitches that are started. Now pay attention to how your stitches look. If they're too tight, it will be really hard to start that first row, because trying to drive your hook through those tight stitches, it's tough. Now, if your stitches are too loose, then it's great for getting your hook through, but then you have really loose looking stitches, and that's not great either. And it will really show up on that bottom row of your project. So just make sure that your stitches are even, that they have the same, like each stitch is the same size. They're not tight, they're not loose. And that's why I say to practice this as many times as necessary to get it right and for it to feel like second nature to create your foundation chain. Okay, so I'm going to start here. I'm going to stop here. And again, take some time, count your stitches, take a look at them, make sure that they look okay, and practice this as many times as possible. And then come on back and we will start that first row. Okay, now we are ready to start row number 1. Now I added on a few extra chain stitches, and only because when we get to the weaving part, I've got some more space to work with to show you how to do that. Now, if you're working from a pattern, in most cases, it will tell you to do your stitch. You start your stitches from the second chain from the hook. So this is the first chain and this is the second. So you will, in most cases, you will go in not on the first, but in the second chain from the hook. So insert your hook through that second chain. You should have 2 loops. Now we're going to do a single crochet stitch for this first row. You're going to yarn over and you're going to pull through the first loop only. So you should still have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and then pull through both loops at the same time. And that's your first stitch from your foundation row. So locate the next stitch, insert your hook, yarn over, and pull through the first loop only. So you should have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through both for stitch number 2. Find the next chain and insert your hook, yarn over, pull through the first loop only, yarn over, and pull through the 2 loops. Now if you take a look at what you've created, you've got 3 stitches, 3 crochet stitches that you created. And you'll notice they look like little V's on the top, and that's perfect. That's exactly what you want. So locate the next stitch, insert your hook, yarn over, first loop only. So you should have your 2 loops there, yarn over, and pull through both. And this is the stitch sequence that you're going to do all the way down until you reach the end. But look at that, you've got 5 stitches there. So again, check your stitches, make sure they look nice. They're not too tight, they're not too loose. They've got a good tension because again, it makes a difference when you're working on row number 2, okay? So I'm going to do a single crochet stitch into the rest of this chain row and I'll meet you back to get started on row number 2. Okay, look at that, row number 1 is done. Now if you want to rip all of this out and keep doing the same process of creating that foundation chain and then working on your first row, then keep doing that as many times as you need to, because practice really does make perfect in this case, okay? So I've got the last stitch done, and before I go to row number 2, I'm going to put in a chain stitch and then turn to go to the other side. And the reason why I put that chain stitch in is because we lost a chain when we went into the second chain from the hook. So we put it on at the end here. Now to start row number 2, it's a little bit different than starting from a chain row because now we've got full stitches, okay? So when you start your first stitch, you don't want to go into that chain stitch you just created. You want to go into the first stitch of the row. Now when you insert your hook, you want to make sure that you've got that full V stitch on your hook, okay? So you don't want to go up through the middle, and you certainly don't want to go in through the back unless your pattern tells you otherwise. So to start that first stitch, you're going to go through that full stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through the 2 loops, okay? Insert your hook through the next stitch, make sure the full stitch is on your hook, yarn over, pull through that first loop, yarn over, and then it's the 2. And then you just continue on from there. But again, make sure your hook goes through the entire stitch. So you've got a V and a loop. Yarn over, pull through the first, yarn over, pull through both. And then you would just continue that down until you reach the end, chain 1, and then turn and keep going. But do this as a repetitive stitch pattern. So go through to the end of the row, chain 1 and turn, then come back, do the same single crochet stitch, and then just keep going and going and going and just practice. Again, practice makes perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a few rows, and then I'm going to come back and show you how to fasten off and weave in your ends. So I will see you there. Okay, we are now at the end of our project and we are ready to fasten off and weave in these ends. So to start, I'm going to grab a pair of scissors and cut off a really nice, healthy, long tail. So we don't need our yarn anymore. Now, there are two ways that you can close this off. You can either pull the thread tail through the loop and create a knot at the end of your row, but a lot of people don't like to have a knot hanging out at the end there. It can create some bulk if it's a larger knot. So the other way to do that, if you want to avoid having a knot on the end, you can simply just pull your thread through and it'll just pop out, and then you can weave in your end from there. Either way works fine. I personally like to put a little knot at the end just to secure it that much more, okay? But again, it's personal preference and it's up to you. Now to weave in the ends, you will need a tapestry needle, a yarn needle, sometimes they're called. And I also want to highlight this little gadget. This is called a loop threader. It's not something that I use all the time, but if I happen to have a really short tail, especially if it's in the middle of my project, this works really well to weave in the shorter tails, because you just put your yarn, your tail through that loop and you just pull it through. So it's not a tool that is necessary, but if you do see them, pick them up, put them in your yarn kit. They do come in handy, again, for shorter tails. So take your tapestry needle and get it threaded. And this process I'm about to show you is for all of the tails within your project. And it is the worst part. Weaving is the worst. I'm just gonna say it. So we're going to weave into the back of your project because you will be snipping off the end and you don't want yarn bits kind of poking through on the front of your work. And how I can tell is when you have your starting tail here, this is the front. If it's hanging out on the bottom left corner, this is the front of your project. So we're going to turn it over. Now to weave, what we're going to do is we're going to go through all of these stitches here on your top row, and you're just going to thread the tapestry needle through your stitches, through that front row, and go as far across as you wish. Okay. Just go through and pull through. Now when you're pulling it through, don't pull it too tight. If you pull it too tight, then your corner starts to pucker in. You do not want that. So make sure this stays firm but loose, and make sure your corner is not puckered in. So I'm going to continue down for a few more stitches here. And I think that's good. Now if you turn over your work, you will not see those weaving stitches put through. They are totally not visible. So now I'm going to go down a row and then come back up on the other side, repeating the same process as that first row. We're just going to pick up those stitches and come back through. And this really sets your yarn in, and it's really hard for those stitches to come undone. Okay, so again, you can see it on the back, but you can't see it on the front. Then I'm going to go down another row and just do a few more, and you can do this for as many rows as you feel is necessary, because you don't want to put all of this work into a project and then have it unravel either through the wash or just from regular use, right? So it doesn't hurt to do as much weaving as you wish. Okay, so I did 3 loops around. That should be good. And then from there, I'm just going to take my scissors and snip off that tail. And you're done. And I would repeat the same process for this beginning tail and for any other tails that you have in your project from there. So that's it. That's how you start and work on your project, and then how to finish it off. If you have any questions at all, or if you need any help, please don't be afraid to reach out. I am here to help. But I wish you all the luck as you start working your way through the crochet world. It's a pretty cool world to be in. And thank you so much for watching.